Someone who's actually into you does not need to be reminded of your existence. This one goes hand in hand with my next point, which is to take a person's actions at face value. It's one thing to be an understanding, empathetic person, but it's another to be someone who tries to justify people's bad behavior.
Out of the 49 dates, I wonder how many went the full hog. What do we think? Interesting to know, wouldn't it? Hey guys, this is Troy Francis, dating coach. I have helped clients all over the world for the past 10 years decipher the modern dating scene. And today we are going to be reacting to a video by Lana Blakely, who is a YouTuber. She's got something like 1.6 million subscribers on her YouTube channel, so she's pretty big. And she gives advice, it seems to be predominantly aimed at women. She sometimes calls herself a big sister, and she gives this kind of big sister advice. A lot of it is around dating and relationships, but there's also lifestyle stuff on there as well. But today we're going to be looking at one of her most popular videos, which is basically charting her journey through 49 first dates, and she talks about what she's learned. So let's watch this and we'll see what kinds of things she's gleaned from going on all these dates.
I've gone on a fair share of dates throughout the years, and here are some things, lessons, advice, and such, big and small, that I've picked up along the way. Some things that I think are worth looking for, considering, thinking about, and it's the good, it's the bad, it's the ugly, so buckle up. This video...
Okay, fair enough. So the video is called I Went on 49 First Dates. I think that's a frown emoji. Here's what I learned. When I saw the title, I thought, oh, she's just done this as a kind of stunt for the video, but it sounds like this is, you know, in her lifetime, she's done these 49 dates. So that's interesting. Anyway, let's see what she has to say.
Let's do the very beginning stages of dating, like we're talking first date, maybe first couple weeks of dating. And everything mentioned in this video is based on my personal experience and conversations that I've had with friends and the stuff that I've read on this topic, because I'm simply just a nerd when it comes to anything related to relationships and social psychology. And yeah, a connection cannot be forced. I don't think we need to write people off immediately. You know, sometimes a connection can develop, but don't settle for a maybe if it's been more than a few dates. You know, decide as soon as possible if this is someone that you would actually want to pursue. And if not, just don't let it linger.
I mean, when she says pursue, she means jump into bed with, let's be honest. I mean, the reality is, and this is going to be fuel for the fire, if there's any guys who watch this and they're of a somewhat more sort of like nihilistic kind of black-pilled view of the dating marketplace, what they're going to say, and maybe with justification, is what she means is, if the guy's hot, fine, go with it. If the guy's not hot, don't entertain it. Just get rid of him after a date or a few dates. Okay. I don't know if that's specific. I suspect she would deny that, and I don't know if that's specifically what she meant, but that's kind of what it sounds like. It's basically saying, look, sister, if you don't find him hot, kick him to the curb.
Even if you may want it to work, because perhaps they seem great in many ways, and on paper, you know, you think you should be a good match, but you can't force yourself to feel something for someone, and you shouldn't have to talk yourself into a relationship.
I mean, I would agree with that, though. I mean, I think she's right. A connection can't be forced. It is a very counterintuitive thing, dating. Some people you just have this amazing connection with for whatever reason. And with other people, it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And it's kind of unpredictable. You know, I've had a really great connection with women that I've met who were very, very different to me. You know, different interests, different backgrounds, coming from different countries, all this kind of stuff. And I've had this amazing connection with them. And then there's other women who you would think on the surface would have more in common with me. And actually the connection hasn't been that good. I would say, though, that Lana is speaking at this with the luxury of being a woman. Okay, so women are able, and listen, if you're a woman watching this, good, this is great for you. Women are kind of able, for the most part, to sort of sit there on the date and allow it all to seep in and just be like, okay, so is there chemistry here? Is there connection here? Okay, and for her to sort of evaluate. Whereas the guy, it's the guy's job to do his best to create that chemistry. Okay, because if you're a guy and you're on a date with an attractive woman and you sit there and you talk to her about boring things and you don't flirt and you don't bring that kind of rizz into the interaction, she's just going to think, well, that was boring, that date was rubbish, and she's not going to want to see you again, okay? The woman, if she's attractive, can kind of sit there and she doesn't really have to worry about that so much, because the guy's gonna want to be with her anyway, regardless often about in terms of how much charisma she really brings to the table, okay? But guys on a date really need to step up to the plate. So there is a sort of pretty girl privilege here a little bit from Lana, because she doesn't need to worry about initiating that connection, whereas the guy actually, because look, here's the thing, right? You, as a guy, you can go on a date with a woman and you can sense there's some interest from her, right? You can kind of tell she checked you out, you smiled at each other, whatever. You kind of can sense that she's into you. But if you drop the ball on that date and you're boring, or you don't come up with cool things to say, or you just kind of, you don't bring any sort of sexual undercurrent into that date, the likelihood is that she's just going to be disappointed. She's going to think you're a bit of a schlub, and she's not going to want to deal with you anymore. Okay, guys have really got to be on their game with this stuff.
That you're seeing deserves someone who is really excited about them, and so do you. So just leave them be. Love, in my experience, is very specific. It's not exactly something that you make happen as much as you kind of let it happen. It can't be demanded, it can't be rushed or forced. What's that saying?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I think my strategy with relationships that I would recommend all guys really utilize, obviously I would, I'm biased, is that you should kind of let things happen. You shouldn't go into a dating scenario with an agenda. And actually this goes for women as well. You shouldn't go into that dating scenario with an agenda and like, right, I want this person to be my new partner. I want her to be my girlfriend. I'm gonna push it in this direction. I think that's a very bad thing to do. Partly because you don't even know her yet. If you've just been out for a few dates with her, yeah, she might be attractive, but you don't actually know anything about her. You need time, okay, to figure out, okay, are we actually compatible? Is this thing actually working? Do I actually really want to spend? Do I actually want to commit to this person further? Okay, so I do think there's something to be said for just organically allowing it to happen, and also keeping your options open at the same time, which men and women do as well, you naughty buggers.
If you have to force it, it's probably shit. I think the best first dates are the simple, low commitment ones, especially if you don't know the person from before, like if you met online, and having a whole dinner booked only to realize 5 seconds into seeing them that it's just not really a connection. It's just not a fun situation.
I agree. Again, what does she mean by not a connection? He turns up, he's not as tall as he said he was, he doesn't quite look like he does in his photos. He's like, yeah, not feeling it, he's not that hot, I'm not feeling the connection. But no, she's right, you don't want to do a dinner on a first date. And actually I would just say do drinks, couple of drinks, or go for coffee. You don't want to do some crazy kind of like, oh, let's go go-karting, or let's go mountaineering, or let's go on a 5-hour hike or something. You want to keep it very simple, because the whole onus of the date should be you guys getting to know one another and seeing if that chemistry is there, seeing if that chemistry can be ignited. Okay.
So don't put yourself there. Attraction is one of the foundations of a good relationship, and it's completely valid not to be interested in someone simply because you don't find them attractive.
No! Black pill tears. Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's all about looks. No, obviously she's right. It is important, and I probably many of us have had the experience of turning up for a date and it's somebody from a dating app and you see her there and you're like, oh, or you see that person waiting for you like, oh, Jesus, this is just not, and that's why you don't want to have a dinner, because you don't want to have to spend like 3 hours with that person if you just know it's not going to go anywhere.
It makes you shallow, it makes you human. Now, can attraction grow over time? I have found some studies supporting that it can, some supporting that it can't. My personal experience is that if you find yourself needing to convince yourself that someone is attractive in the initial stages of dating, it's not worth pursuing. They too deserve someone who finds them desirable.
So, of course, I agree with her. And from a male perspective, you would think it would be even more marked. It's basically like, okay, do I think she's attractive? Do I not think she's attractive? Is she hot or is she not? It's as simple as that. You would think. However, I would say, playing devil's advocate, that there are, you can meet people who are on the periphery of what you find hot. So I was dating a woman. I met this girl a couple of years ago in Poland, in Warsaw. Ukrainian woman. She kind of gave me some eye contact in this cafe. I went to talk to her. I got her phone number. I was with a couple of other guys at the time. So I quickly went to get her phone number. We had a chat, whatever. I thought she was attractive, and I thought she was sort of my type, but I didn't think she was. I wasn't sort of blown up. I wasn't like, oh my God, I've met my future ex-wife. I've met my future ex-wife, guys. I was sort of quite like, yeah, I mean, she's kind of cute, whatever. We went out for a date, and then we went out for another date, and things progressed, and we were seeing each other for a little while. And then we kind of, it didn't continue for various reasons, partly because we don't live in the same country, and partly because of other geopolitical things that started to happen over the last couple of years. But the important thing is that I realized over time, like, wow, actually, this girl is incredibly hot. Like, how could I have not have seen that at the time? And I think it was partly because if you meet someone in the daytime, often they're not, they're not done up as much as maybe they might be in the evening. So there's an element of that. But also, I do think to some degree, people can grow on you. And I think that that's true for women, and I think that's also true for men. It may be true more for women because women are supposedly less driven by looks. So I do think there's some argument that spending a little bit of time with the person, it can sort of change your perception of them. And certainly when I've had longer term girlfriends, you know, over time they seem to become more beautiful to me. But I would agree that fundamentally, if you're just not feeling it, you can't make something out of nothing. You know what I mean? You just can't.
Attraction, beware of infatuation. Some people we meet can be very enchanting, you know, they're everything we ever wanted. They sweep us off our feet and we drown into their pretty eyes. In fact, we drown so
Thanks, Lana.
that our brain gets flooded and we can't think clearly. We fool ourselves into believing that things are better than they actually are, that they are better than they actually are. Now, that's not to say that feeling very excited about someone is necessarily a bad thing. Of course, we want to feel that, but just be aware that your brain can be kind of dumb sometimes. I think intentions should be communicated as soon as you feel like you know what you want from a person. You know, you don't really need to walk into a date having "I want to have kids in 6 months" written
No, you don't want to do that.
shirt, but I absolutely think that bringing up the topic is necessary unless you have a thing for wasting your time and being unnecessarily disappointed. Speaking of fooling yourself, don't become an excuse-finding Olympian. His phone did not die. He did not get attacked by a dolphin. He saw your text, he spent plenty of time on his phone, and he did not call or reply. Or perhaps they replied, but they were vague. They did not include the time and place for meeting up, which are essential, and they got back to you after 2 days. If it's really bad, they may not reply to your text or call, but they will communicate with you by replying to your Instagram story or something like that. And that is not communication. Leave it be and allow space for something better in your life.
I mean, realistically, how often is Lana getting ghosted? I mean, she's clearly an attractive girl. It seems unlikely that this is happening to her a lot. But regardless, maybe it is. I don't know. But the thing is, she is right. The medium is the message, okay? If you're dealing with somebody and they are kind of messing around, they're not responding to you, they're taking ages to respond, sometimes they ignore messages, sometimes they respond and things like this. Basically, they're not in, like, you don't look for a reason and don't try to second guess it. And like she said, don't make excuses for them. They're not that into you, okay? They're not that into you. And guys will make this mistake with women, right? It's like, oh, she replied, like she said this at 12:07 the other night and then she hasn't replied. What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, she's not that interested. She's probably fucking someone else. You're a second option at best. Just leave it. Just move on. Or at least, you know, just don't message her anymore. Wait and see if she comes back in contact with you.
Remember that someone who's actually into you does not need to be reminded of your existence. This one goes hand in hand with my next point, which is to take a person's actions at face value. It's one thing to be an understanding, empathetic person, but it's another to be someone who tries to justify people's bad behavior. Someone's childhood drama is not a ticket for them to treat you poorly, and remember that the way someone
Out of the 49 dates, I wonder how many went the full hog. What do we think? Interesting to know, wouldn't it?
treats you is more important than how much you love them or they love you. Also, and you may...
Okay, well, that's actually quite good advice. So we have to look at actions, not words, okay? And I think that is well-founded, whether you're a guy or a girl. You've got to look at, okay, so this person might be saying all this great stuff, but what are they actually doing? And that's the important thing.
I find this to be true, but the red flags that you choose to ignore at the beginning will likely be the reason that you break up in the end. Don't be too quick to write people off. So this often happens when we go on a date with a mental checklist of the things that we want in a partner. And yeah, like knowing what you want is crucial for finding what you need, but having a checklist can distract you from being present and from paying attention.
I mean, she's kind of contradicting herself now, isn't she? Because before she said, if it's not there initially, then write it off. And now she's saying, give them a bit more time and don't worry too much about your checklist. So, I mean, both can be right in a certain type of way, but I'm not sure both can be right at the same time.
To how we're actually feeling in that moment with that person. You know, perhaps they don't have the exact educational background that you would imagine your partner to have, or maybe they're not much of a cook, but
well, I'm certainly not.
How important are these things to you really? I think it's worth revisiting our mental checklist from time to time. Be honest with yourself about your wants and your needs. Don't let anyone else tell you what you should like. You know, do you like it when a man holds the door for you or pays for you on the first date, or do you dream of being the breadwinner? Whatever it is, don't let any outside Voices interfere with your genuine needs and wants. Don't ignore obvious signs of incompatibility. Everyone is different, no one is perfect, there will always be disagreements, but you need to know what you're okay with and not okay with, and what you can live with and not live with. You need to know your deal breakers, and don't fool yourself thinking that you can change someone's mind on a fundamental value or belief that they hold.
She is correct about that, and I think a lot of women fall into the trap or fall into the mistake of trying to change a partner. I think probably women do it more than men. I suppose men do it in the sense that men will sometimes have the wounded bird thing. You know, they'll want to look after, they'll kind of want to nurture and look after that girl. Or, you know, sometimes guys will meet a girl who's like doing sugar dating or OnlyFans or something. It's like, no, I'll take you away from that life. I'll rescue you. You can have an amazing life with me. And they kind of want to, you know, they want to sort of help her and nurture her. And I think that can happen from the male perspective. But I think from the female perspective, there is a lot of sort of like, oh, he's a bit of an asshole. He's a bit of a jerk, you know, he's a player, but I can change him. You know, I'm going to be the one to tame him and all that. And usually it doesn't work. And if it does work, if you do manage to tame him, probably he's not going to be happy. And probably you as the woman aren't going to be happy either, because then 6 months down the line, you're going to be, hang on a minute, this guy was like a super alpha playboy, kind of exciting dude before. And now he's taking me to IKEA every weekend. I'm not as turned on by that. That's the problem. That's the problem when women try to beta-ize guys. You know, they try to tame guys. The difficulty is that they create this entity. They create this tamed man, this kind of chained man that then they're not attracted to. And then the relationship starts to break down. It's a really crazy kind of cycle that happens so many, many times.
And it's a figment of your imagination. Don't judge the new person by the old person. It's not really fair to bring emotional baggage from a previous date or relationship onto a new one. Sure, we all carry our experiences with us. They don't just magically go away when we're seeing someone new. But it's not fair to let a new person be punished for the last person. Try to go into it with a blank slate and don't generalize. Don't forget about the friendship part. So typically, and I'm aware that there are people who are asexual, the difference between romantic and platonic relationships is the physical intimacy part. But I think it's good to ask yourself if you would be friends with this person, romance and hormones aside. Would you want to hang out with them? Do they possess qualities that you appreciate in a friend? You know, they say that love is friendship caught fire. I don't know who said it. Don't look for someone who will create your happiness. Look for someone who you would like to share your happiness with. Take precautions. So 5 things, I think it's 5 things that I think are worth mentioning here. 1, if you meet this person online, do a video call before meeting them. 2, look them
Yeah, not a bad idea. You don't want to get catfished.
beforehand. I'm not encouraging anyone to have a full-blown cyber stalking session before the first date, but look up enough information so that you feel comfortable in meeting them and knowing they're actually a real person. 3, and I know distinguishing anxiety from actual danger isn't the easiest thing in the world for everyone, but if something feels off with a person, don't write it off as anxiety. It may not be, and I don't know, is it really worth figuring out? Maybe not, in my opinion. A bad vibe is a valid reason not to date someone. Always let someone close to you know who you're seeing and where you're going and what time and all that stuff. If at any point during a date you feel uncomfortable, don't be afraid to break it off early. Have a friend call you and fake an emergency or whatever you need to get out of there. Just remember that you don't owe anyone anything. If you're someone who is...
I mean, you know, she's probably saying that, directing that more at women, and fair enough, right? But I think guys can take a leaf out of that book as well, right? Because, I mean, I've been on some dates that are just horrendous, you know, and you're like, but because, you know, you're kind of gentlemanly and you want to sort of do the right thing and everything, you end up sometimes staying on the date longer than you perhaps should. You know, you might stay for 2 drinks instead of 1 drink or whatever. Again, this is why you shouldn't go for dinner. You shouldn't go rock climbing. You shouldn't go bowling or any of this crap on a first date. You want to do something where it's fairly easy to end the date quickly.
Afraid of rejecting others, or if you can't take rejection, please put off dating until you have worked on those things. You know, you don't want to be in a situation where you're too afraid to say no. Let's say they lean in for a kiss. And you also don't want to be the type of person who cannot take no for an answer. First few dates should always be in public spaces. If you have anything to add to this list, please comment down below. And I think it's important to note that no one knows what you truly want and need and feel better than you do. So while seeking advice can be immensely valuable and interesting, letting some YouTuber on the internet dictate your life decisions is quite risky because, I mean, after all, what do they know about your life?
Yes, Lana, what do you know about my life? I'm not taking advice from you, you random YouTuber. No, I mean, there was some quite good tips in there for sure. I think this kind of dating advice, again, primarily aimed at women, although there is some stuff that guys can take from that as well. It's very well intentioned. It all sounds very nice and everything like that. But what it kind of ignores is the bigger picture, which is that, yes, all this stuff is great, but all of this stuff is kind of assuming that you are meeting people with whom you're going to be able to create that relationship and then sustain that relationship with. And the problem is that modern dating is, well, I suppose dating has always been, but it certainly is now, a marketplace. Okay, there is demand and supply. What is your value within that marketplace? Are you an attractive woman? Are you an attractive enough woman that you can hold on to that top tier guy that you want? Are you an attractive enough guy that you can get that top quality kind of Instagram girl that you've always craved? Okay, if you're not, then it doesn't matter that you've got your checklist of all these things that you want and you're super firm in your goals and your boundaries and all of this kind of stuff, because you're not going to get your foot in the door in the first place. Or if you're a woman, you might get your foot in the door, you may well end up sleeping with that quote unquote high value man, but are you going to hold on to him? Are you going to be able to get into the relationship that you actually want with him? Okay, so I think that all of this stuff, it's great, it's very well intentioned, some of it is useful, but it's sort of sugarcoating the more harsh realities of what modern dating is about, which is, do you have the goods? Are you able to, do you have what it takes to get hold of that person that you want and to keep hold of them in the current scene? And the current scene is very competitive, particularly for men, but also for women. And there are a lot of temptations around there with social media, dating apps, and all the rest of it. So you can meditate, you can journal about the things that you want to your heart's content, but that's not necessarily going to stop your significant other from stepping out on you, unless you're looking after the fundamentals, which are basically, it's the shallow stuff, guys, I'm afraid. Looking good, being in great shape. For women, being super sweet and super amenable and, nice to be around. And for guys, being kind of dominant and going out there and having that go-getter attitude, okay? We need to tick all these boxes, I'm afraid, guys. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel, write a comment below, share this video with all of your friends so we can shove it up the algorithm, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.